I'm Marianne LaCroix. I'm the Executive Director of the Maine Lobster Marketing Collaborative. The organization was formed in 2013, and there'd been a marketing group in place since 1990, or early 1990s, and the industry grew quite a bit from the 90s. That was just when landings started increasing, so the original marketing group had pre-low funding and was primarily sort of in-state promotions and things like that. And 2012 was a really tough year for the industry. A lot of lobster came in really early in the season. There wasn't processing capacity to handle it, so the price was really, really low for the rest of the season. So there was a lot of discussion at that time about what could be done to prevent that. And there were some issues considered on, sort of regulatory options considered on the water, and also sort of creating a new marketing organization that was properly funded. So the industry decided at that time to do it, and we were fully funded by the industry, by the lobstermen, dealers, and processors. Every year when they get their license, there's a marketing fee attached to that.
So it's been a little over half a year since the Monterey Bay Aquarium Seafood Watch put lobster on their red list. How has that impacted demand?
There wasn't a noticeable impact on demand from that red list.
What about last year then? How has lobstering recovered since COVID, or how was it impacted by COVID?
Well, it was interesting. In 2020, we were obviously really concerned because of, restaurant shutdowns and that kind of thing. And it ended up, there's a big switch to retail sales, grocery store sales and online sales, which both did really well. So while it wasn't a banner year, it was much better than expected given the situation. 2021 was the best year on record ever for Maine lobster in terms of the price at the boat and the overall value of the catch. And we attribute that to, people having a lot of pent-up demand, having some extra money because they've been, kind of not doing much for a year and a half, and it was just an incredible year. And then this past year, 2022, was quite a bit lower. The expenses remained really high for the fishermen, and the boat price really didn't keep up with their expenses. So we know a lot of fishermen fished less last year because of that.
So are you talking about the prices of bait and fuel?
Yeah, exactly. Those are the two main expenses.
There is a call from environmentalists, as we all know, to reduce the risk to right whales by going ropeless. Is that even possible, and what sacrifices would it take?
It's not possible right now. I mean, the technology actually isn't there. There's a number of manufacturers that are testing out different ropeless gear, and it's done in closed areas, so areas that are closed to other fishing. So people have to get special permits to use the gear and try it out. It's primarily being done in Massachusetts right now because they've had a closure on the books for, I think, almost 10 years now, every spring. So that gear gets tested out there. What they need to develop is a system where everybody can see everybody else's gear. Otherwise, there would be a tremendous amount of gear conflict. And it's not only lobstermen seeing other lobstermen's gear. I mean, they have to see their own gear, which the technology is there for that. They have to see each other's gear. And also other boats using the same area need to see their gear. So, like, the people that are dragging for different species, things like that, need to know where lobster gear is if it doesn't have a visual marker like a buoy. And then legislation would have to change as well, because right now everyone's required to show a buoy. And then the last piece that would need to be in place would be that there needs to be a system for Marine Patrol to be able to pull up traps in order to check them, that they're in compliance. And right now they obviously just do that, hook a buoy and pull up the trap. So there need to be a mechanism to pull a trap that's not their own.
So has there been any new regulation coming from the federal or state government lately that has made a big impact on lobstering?
The biggest regulatory impacts over the past few years are the ones, to increase protections for right whales. And those have been the Maine fishery, or the U.S. fishery, lobster fishery. They've been working on this for 25 years. So they've been putting new regulations in place consistently since then. One of the biggest changes and most impactful changes was in 2010 when the fishery took out, I think it's 30,000 miles of floating rope that the rope that was used between traps to hook traps together, and that was replaced. 100% of that was placed with sinking rope. And prior to 2010, we were finding float rope on or around those ropes on whales, and since 2010 we have not found that rope on whales. So that was a really, really significant change. And then as recently as last year, Maine added a closure 4 months a year to fishing. They've marked all their rope so that if it is found on a whale, it can be identified. And they've done a lot with putting less rope in the water by adding more traps to a line, and also making all the rope that is in the water weaker, so that if a whale were to encounter it, it could break free on its own.
How do you think that the proposals for offshore wind development going forwards are going to impact lobstering?
Yeah, I mean, it obviously, if those go forward, they take up bottom that's currently being used for lobster fishing, so that would definitely have an impact.
Well, Janet Mills at the end of 22 announced that she secured a regulatory pause for the lobster industry. Do you think that this has bought you more time?
That was our congressional delegation in Washington were responsible for that pause. The 6 years, it's incredibly valuable because it gives time to study both the new technology and help address some of the issues that I mentioned earlier with ropeless technology, and it also gives an opportunity to find out both where the whales are and what is potentially harming them, because there isn't a lot of data on that now, although all the data that is available, nothing points to the Maine lobster fishery.
So, in your mission to preserve the lobstering industry, where has your biggest support come from, and where have you found your biggest pushback?
The fishery is incredibly important to the state, and I think everyone recognizes that. The congressional delegation, our elected leaders, have all been incredibly supportive of the fishery, as have people in the state, restaurants and even, general consumers. Pushback, I would say, is from environmental groups that are concerned about right whales and are concerned that the Maine lobster fishery is posing a risk, even though the data doesn't point that way.
All right. Well, that's all I have. Do you have any parting messages?
No. Very nice talking to you.
It was nice talking to you, too. Thank you so much for your time.
Sure.